Good morning everyone and welcome to this week's edition of the RDA Central West Business Leaders Breakfast, and I'm joining you this morning from Portland with the very hard-working Rich Evans, CEO and Editor-at-Large of the Central West Media Group. Rich, welcome to breakfast.
Thank you very much, Sam.
Fantastic to be in Portland this morning with you. We're at Media HQ, so to speak.
Yeah, yep.
Fantastic little setup you've got here. Now, for the viewers that might not be aware, you wear a lot of hats and you're actively involved in the Central West community. Can you tell our viewers a little bit, I guess, about the Central West Media Group? Yep. And maybe some of those other hats you wear and your journey to the Central West?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess currently the main things that I'm doing with my time, I head up the Central West Media Group. So we own the Bathurst City Life and the Lithgow Village Voice. We started the Village Voice in 2014. We bought the Bathurst City Life in 2019. And we have a couple of websites that we're launching as well. So Central West Jobs, Central West Business Directory, and a few other things coming. I'm also the Chief Reactivation Officer of the Foundations at Portland, which is the reactivation of that whole Cementworks project. President of Ironfest, Vice President of Lithgow Chamber, a father, a husband, a whole bunch of other stuff. But
well, you're looking remarkably fresh this morning, considering you wear all those hats and you are always so busy.
Yep.
Now, just down the road from us here is the Foundations.
Yes.
It's an absolute cracker of a site, and I really encourage any of our viewers that ever come this way to Portland, or you've got visiting family or friends coming to the Central West, the silos at Portland, at the works there, top shelf. Tell us a little bit about that.
So that was the sort of the launch of the project 2 years ago. So in April and May 2018, the silos were painted by international artist Guido van Helten. So Guido travels all over the world painting silos, and we were very, very lucky to have him paint the ones here in Portland. And it's created like a magnet that just draws people off the highway to come in through Portland to see that. And then as they drive in, there's also the signs of yesteryear, there's all this other stuff in Portland to see, but the silos are just so big and majestic that it's, really grabbed everyone's imagination.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know one of the entrants in the Central West photo comp that RDA ran was of a night shot of the Portland silos, and absolutely,
it was a cracker.
Yeah, it was
really good.
But you do markets down there.
We do.
Can you tell us a little bit of some of those different events?
Yeah, so we have markets. They've been unfortunately off for a little while, but we've just announced yesterday that the markets will be back on from August. So they're the second Sunday of the month. The markets are on, and that gathers, sort of 50 odd stalls together, local food producers, crafts, artists, all sorts of stuff there at the markets. It's undercover, which is awesome in Portland because, hey, it could snow in November, you just never know. So having a big undercover space is great. So we do that. We do a number of events there. We've done dinners. We've got some music events coming up shortly. So there's lots of stuff that happens as we go back to life after COVID. So,
yeah, absolutely. And I will be sure to put up those the details for the Portland markets up on this Facebook page after today's chat. But one of the other hats, and it's where we are situated today, is your role with the Central West Media Group. Yeah. There's been some dramatic changes in the regional media landscape over recent years. Can you tell us, I guess, what was the driving force behind you making that decision to invest in regional media? What's the objectives, I guess, of the Village Voice and the Bathurst City Life? Yep. Because I think that'd be of interest.
I think that, part of that story as well is our journey here to the Central West. So we were from Western Sydney. We came to Portland in 2012 in December. And we sort of, stumbled across Portland by accident. We thought we were going to move to Bathurst. We went to Bathurst and decided that wasn't quite right. Came through Portland on the way home and just fell in love. So like a week later, our, whole thing was changing and we're up here. And we just, looked around, and I was working as a consultant at the time, and I didn't really need to find a job. So I was just, happily, doing my work, working with the community. And then I was organising a community event, and the other local newspaper wouldn't run the story about that event unless we took an ad. But because it was a small event with no money, we didn't have any money for advertising. And I just felt that wasn't right for a community newspaper. And so there's nothing like, a little bit of time on my hands, a little bit of money in the bank, and me with, a little beginning of an idea. And after about 4 or 5 weeks, I had a business plan, and I was pitching it to Cal and saying, we're going to do this, we're going to start a newspaper. And right at a time where, people were saying print is dead, nothing's going to happen with print, we launched a community newspaper. My background was in technology, so I ran an internet development company for 15 years. So when I was telling people I was going to start a newspaper, they were looking at me going, like an online one? I was like, no, like a physical printed one. And what we found was that sort of, first paper came out in March in 2014, and it grew to be a much loved community resource. We focus on the good news, we focus on what's great in the communities, we help all the community groups tell their stories. And so that real positive outlook has made it, it's something that people look forward to each week. And it's just grown from strength to strength. So
yeah, absolutely. And I know you can access both of those publications online for free.
You can, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so we might put the links up to the Village Voice publication and the Bathurst City Life after today's chat. You kind of touched on it there. You were at the forefront of, I guess, of digital adaptation and adaptation of technology for business in Australia at the turn of the early 2000s.
I was, yeah.
Can you tell our viewers, I guess, some of the learnings that you made during those journeys and how you've applied those to your different business pursuits?
Yep.
And secondly, from those experiences that you had, what are some key take-homes that you reckon would be of a good value for local businesses to take on board for themselves?
I think that, I started, the first website I built was back in 1998, so a very, very, very long time ago. You can still access it on the Internet Archive, and I look at it now and cringe, but I've been involved in that industry for a very, very long time, and one of the only constants with the digital world is change. So it's constantly evolving, there's always new things. So I wrote a book in 2009 called Click Here, which was published. I did a speaking tour with that, and we went around and did a whole bunch of stuff. But in 2009, there wasn't social media. So you look at that book now, and in the 2009 context, it made a lot of sense. But now, social media has completely revolutionised again over the last decade how the internet works, basically. So what I think the most important thing is, and certainly what I've learnt to do, is just, be curious and always be, sticking your flag in whatever the new platforms are. Who knows what the next big social media thing's going to be. Facebook's for old people now. I don't know if you know that, but Facebook's the old thing, and everyone's on TikTok and all these things. And even I'm now getting to the stage where I have to ask my kids to show me, what this new thing is. But I think that everybody needs to be aware that you've got to go wherever your customers are. So if you're selling to a younger audience, then maybe TikTok or Snapchat's for you. If you're selling to a highly visual audience, then maybe it's Instagram. If you want to sell to the grey nomads, then jump on Facebook. So there's a whole host of things to think about. But I guess the most important part of it is to be there. Most businesses don't even have their Google Places page sorted out correctly. So.
Yeah, I think one of the, we've been through a tough time, and a lot of businesses have been doing it tough through COVID. And I'm pretty confident I'll get some views from you that one of the positive learnings from this period, I think, will be the adaptation or the speeding up of businesses going online, building that digital platform that we've been talking about to kind of access those new markets.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a good long-term benefit that will come from this
Oh,
period?
absolutely, because I think that, it's something that all businesses need to do. A lot of high street retailers, for instance, were always feeling like e-commerce and their business were at odds. Like, they couldn't do both. They've got this bricks and mortar shop. They have to get people to come into the store. But having a great website or a great social media presence that drives people through the doors of your shop is a great strategy. And if your doors aren't open, driving them to an online shop so you can still keep selling to them is an absolute must. Yeah. I think a lot of people learnt that the hard way. But what's been great is seeing a lot of people pivot very quickly, and there's so many great platforms out there now. I remember the first e-commerce website that we built back in, I think, 2002. There was no e-commerce engines or anything. We had to build it from scratch. It cost the company we built it for over $100,000, and it was a massive undertaking, whereas now you could register a Shopify site and be up and running in about half an hour. So the world's changed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know, we think back, the iPhone, I think, came around in about 2008. So it's been a rapid transition, a steep curve. And I think you're right. I think it's businesses that are willing to adapt and continue to push the boundaries. They're the ones that are going to thrive.
Absolutely.
Because it's a competitive marketplace out there.
It is.
If you've got a great product, that's fantastic, but you've also got to be able to get that product out to that key target audience. And I know we've spoken about this off air before. It's about knowing your target audience, knowing that ideal customer, I guess, and then framing your product.
Absolutely. And, whatever avenue you can get to them through. There's, whether it's on Instagram or whether it's on Facebook, getting into the conversation is the most important part. Getting people to look at your photos, look at your content, share your content, then, growing your audience. And as, we've spoken about previously as well, people are now going, well, I'm going to create a blog post or I'm going to create a podcast or something else. But repurpose that content, send, your local newspaper, your blog post as a press release. There's no, newspapers are after content. So, get it out amongst every medium you can.
Exactly right. Nice way to give a couple of good podcasts a plug. One is our chats, our business breakfast chats are now available on podcast through Podbean and Apple Podcasts.
Yep.
But it's kind of a nice segue because, Rich, you yourself have a podcast.
Yes.
And it's called The Uncommon. Can you tell us, our viewers, a little bit about that?
Yeah.
And what drove you to launching The Uncommon? And a little bit of the history.
Well, the thing that drove me to launch it was a motorcycle accident last year that left me laid up in bed for a couple of months. But really what The Uncommon is it's an exploration of the idea that to try and remove stigma around mental health issues, basically. And so I had sort of been sitting on this idea that I've created this platform with a newspaper, I've created all these different things, but there was still this huge stigma around mental health. So depression's something that I've lived with my whole life and have worked a way of still, getting out and doing a lot. So people have this idea that if you've got depression, you sit on the couch and you don't go anywhere, you don't do anything. Whereas, in my experience, I don't just survive with mental health issues, I actually thrive because of them. And I felt that I can't be unique. I might be uncommon, but I'm not unique. And so the idea of The Uncommon was to share some of my story to try and help destigmatise issues around mental health, but also to share the stories of other people that are, doing so many amazing things, but are still, working through with what other people would suggest would be challenges. I think now, though, one of the themes that we explore in The Uncommon quite a lot is resilience and putting one foot in front of the other and continuing to move forward. But coming out of this COVID-19 time, the old adage of 1 in 5 people would experience mental health in their lifetime, I think it's probably like 1 in 1 now. Like everybody's going to have had, this is a very strange time for everyone to go through. So I feel that that's increase in the idea of resilience and that theme of moving forward no matter what is something that we explore in quite detail there.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's been an unprecedented scenario that we found ourselves in, and people are feeling isolated, and especially with the physical isolation that's required, causing some. I'm sure a lot of people have been grappling with some internal and personal challenges, and I think it's something that we've spoken about before, and it's probably unearthed on the Uncommon podcast. So we'll make sure we put the link up to the Uncommon for after today's chat. It's that communication. Is that, do you think, communicating with family and friends and making sure they know they've got support there?
I think so, yeah. And I think that part of the most important thing is, not communicating. Are you okay day is once a year, but it should be every day. Like the people that you love and care for, you should be checking in on them all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I know we spoke with Stephanie Robinson, the CEO of Lifeline Central West, on this platform a few weeks ago, and we've got a fantastic resources here in our region, experts. And if you ever do need support, reach out to people like Lifeline Central West because they're here to help. Yeah,
absolutely. I think that's part of the thing. There is some great people doing some great work, but with the stigma still surrounding it, people that need the help don't often go and seek it. So just try and do our bit to try and change that.
No, fantastic, Rich. Absolutely fantastic. Now, we're going to change pace and tact a little bit here.
Yep.
This is the section that I like to call Fast Five. It's where I hit our special guest with to delve into a little bit more about their background and what makes them tick.
Yep.
Now, hidden talent or hobby?
I don't know how hidden it is, but I'm a failed rock star. It's all I ever wanted to be when I was in high school.
Okay.
I started playing guitar when I was 6 years old. I've written a bunch of music and performed all over the place when I was younger.
So when's your next gig at the Portland pub?
Well, probably next weekend. I don't know. I think the challenge was that the rock star life that I had in my mind wasn't fulfilled when I was living in a caravan next door to my mother-in-law's place. So I had a haircut and got a real job, and
that
the rest
doesn't
is
say
history.
rock star.
So yeah.
Look, I have no musical talent, so I left that one a long time ago. But look, top 3 dinner guests.
Yes.
And what meal would you serve for your special guests?
So my top 3 dinner guests, I'd love to. So I'd invite Marcus Aurelius, because I try to, understand and live my life by some of the philosophies of the Stoic philosophy. And I would love to get his insight on, he was one of the last great philosopher kings, and, the leadership in the world now is just all over the place. So I'd love to get his sort of take on that. Steve Jobs, because I'm an Apple fanboy since way back. I've got the Apple logo tattooed on my arm. We don't need to see that, but that's how deep my love for Apple runs. I'd love to get Steve back and say, well, you created all this technology, and look at the positives and the negatives of what it is. Are you proud of what you've done? What's the legacy here? And then I'd actually like to invite The Rock, Dwayne Johnson.
Okay.
Because, I work hard.
Yep.
But man, that guy works really hard. So, I'd love to get, him around a table and, just for the motivation, the inspiration that you'd get. As to what I'd serve, it might not go down so well with The Rock being the giant, omnivore that he is, but I'm a plant-based eater, so I'd serve some sort of vegan meal, whether it be a good vegan curry or something like that. But I'd have to cook a lot to feed The Rock, I guess. So.
I think it would be an interesting, a very interesting dinner conversation with that trifecta, I think.
Yeah.
Probably a nice segue. Last movie you saw or TV series that you're watching?
So the last movie I saw, I went to the drive-ins up at the Winter Festival last weekend, and we saw the classic original Jumanji.
Well, the new one has The Rock in it.
The new one does have The Rock in it, and it's great. But you can't beat a classic. Robin Williams in that movie was just outstanding. So that was the last movie I saw. And the last series, I've spent quite a lot of time watching documentaries. One of the great things about Netflix is just this huge array of content that's available. And the last documentary I watched just a couple of days ago was actually a documentary on ZZ Top. And what's fascinating about that is I know them as like guys with long beards that play a whole bunch of songs that I love. But this documentary delved into the beginnings and right back. And then it's a band that's been together for 5 decades. It's incredible. And, they weren't always top of the pops sort of thing. They had a pretty hard road to get there.
Were they ever living in a caravan?
I think they probably didn't live anywhere at one point, but they did tour with Jimi Hendrix, so it sort of goes that far back. So it's quite incredible to sort of see the histories of those things, because you have an idea. You go, this, I put ZZ Top into that box, and it's not just music or bands or anything. It's any idea. You put it into that box, and then you learn a bit more of the history, and you get some context, and it always opens your eyes a bit more. Especially
when you start peeling back those different layers 100%. Of those bands and the journeys that they've been on.
Yeah.
So look, we're in Portland.
Yes.
We're just around the corner this morning from the silos, from the foundations. What is your top tourism event or offering in the Central West? We're known for the events. We mentioned the Winter Festival just before.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think I'd be hung, drawn, and quartered in true medieval fashion if I didn't mention Ironfest, which I'm currently presiding over as the president. So sadly, Ironfest didn't go ahead this year, but last year it celebrated its 20th anniversary.
Have we got a date for 2021?
We have got an event happening in 2021 in April around the normal time that it happens, but we're still waiting for guidance as to whether Ironfest as we know it can go ahead the way that it's always gone ahead. But there will be definitely something. This year we did a virtual festival, which was fun, but it wasn't quite what you'd experience at Ironfest. But the whole Central West region has, so many great events. Lithgow Halloween, you've got Ironfest, you've got the Winter Festival up at Bathurst, and then you've got all those other amazing events. And I think that that's one of these underpinning things in the Central West region that gives people an idea why they should come to. Like, it gives them an actual date in time. You have to come to the Central West on this date for this thing, rather than just saying you should come out because it's nice. There's actually all these experiential things that happen out here. So
Yeah,
I think it's something we
absolutely.
do really well.
Yeah, I tend to agree, and it doesn't matter what time of the year where you are, there's some cracker event on that
Absolutely.
brings people, and I guess now that restrictions are starting to roll back, there's never been a better time, I guess, to come out to our region, check out some of these things, especially come into Portland, Lithgow, Bathurst, Orange, wherever it is, because you know you're going to have a good time. Now, the last Fast Five one for you, I guess, is if you were to have a hidden gem, I guess, at the Central West. You know, we've talked about tourism events. Hidden gems, I would argue Portland's probably one in its own right.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you were going to encourage somebody to move here or visit, what would be a hidden gem you'd like to bring to their attention?
I think you're right. Portland is a hidden gem, and we see Portland becoming the Berry sort of the Central West over the next few years. But I think there's multiple hidden gems. There's amazing restaurants. There's like people don't tend to think of, like particularly people in Sydney. They think that there's just it's just the country and it's quaint and it's little and there's nothing happening. But, we've got one of the best vegan restaurants in the country in Secret Creek is, up behind Lithgow. We've got, amazing things that people don't know about in galleries and, all this sort of stuff in the Central West. And I think there's multiple hidden gems, and I think that one of the things that I just encourage everybody to do is to go and explore. And one of the things I said to someone the other day is don't come with a deadline. Like, just come to the Central West with a bit of time on your hands, drive around and check it all out, because it's chockers full of little things to discover. Yeah, absolutely. And I know myself, you go for a walk, around Boronor Caves, near Orange, or anywhere you go, you unearth those little gems, and then they become staples when you have visitors that you need to bring to their attention. Yeah, it's getting hard. You used to say to people, "Oh, come up and I'll show you around Portland," and now it takes half a day to show them around the foundations. Yeah, so I could bring 2 days because we're going to show you around all of Portland. So look, it's probably a nice little pathway into my next question. You yourself, you touched on it earlier, you brought your skills and you brought your family to the Central West a few years ago. What was probably the biggest change that you noticed when you came to the Central West, and what would be one of the positive kind of triggers or catalysts that you would convey to potential visitors or people that were looking to make the move? I think one of the most amazing things for us was the massive increase in enjoyment of life. So when we owned a business in Western Sydney, and I was always in traffic, I was always in meetings, I was always working, and I was like, living to work basically. There was no working to live. And when we moved out here, we were really after a change. That was what sort of drove us out to try and find a better lifestyle for our children particularly. And that's been the thing. I mean, even though I'm really busy now, I do a lot of stuff, but I get to do it in clean air. I walk around the site every afternoon with the dog, and like the lifestyle that I live now is just so much more relaxed, and I've probably bought myself 20 years of life by moving out here and taking a chill pill. So, and look, it doesn't matter where you come in the Central West. We got a couple of lovely coffees from the Grove this morning. We did, yes. Beautiful coffees. So next time you come into Portland, stop in there, say g'day, tell them Rich sent you, you might get a freebie. Now, look, as I said, we've had a challenging 2020. Yes. We started with the fires, with the drought, and now COVID. But what's your prediction, I guess, for the remainder of the year? There have been a lot of businesses and some industries that have pivoted quite successfully during this challenging time. Yep. What's your forecast? Looking blue sky thinking, what do you think some industries that might bounce back or thrive as we progress into 2021? I really think that, the low-hanging fruit is tourism. You've only got to see the numbers are through the roof in all of the Central West region. I think the best business opportunity right now is to put a toll gate at the top of Mount Victoria, but I'm not sure that that's completely legal. But there's so many people coming out, which is great, and I do hope that that comes. And that sort of started after the bushfires with people wanting to support the regions, and then it's just been massively increased after the COVID period. So I think there's going to be some great opportunities around tourism. And there, I think that I honestly see a big migration. I think there's a lot of people that went through COVID in a city where they were locked in a 2-bedroom apartment with 3 kids and are not going to be real happy to continue to live like that. And there was no better way to run a large-scale experiment about working from home. I've been a digital nomad for all of my working life. Like, I can work as long as I've got a laptop and an internet connection, I can do my work. And I think that people now realise that, and so they're looking at it going, well, if I can work from home and I'm allowed to work from home, why do I live here where I'm paying so much for my mortgage and all of these things? If I move somewhere else where a better lifestyle, better affordability for living, I think we'll see a big migration over the course of the next 6-12 months.
I tend to agree. You know, those people that might have had to have been in the office, they've shown that they can deliver the outcomes that their employer expects, doing it remotely. And I think you're right, we're positioned ideally here in the Central West. You could base yourself in the Central West, and if you need to get into Sydney one day a week, you can do it.
Absolutely.
And you can still enjoy this lifestyle that we're so, I get blessed to have here.
Yeah.
And, really real positive opportunities, I think, going forward.
It's quite amazing. I haven't flown this year, obviously, but I do travel quite a bit for other business projects that I'm involved in. And I can be in Brisbane quicker than I used to be able to get from Penrith to Sydney. Lithgow train station, straight into the airport, onto a plane, into Brisbane and into a cab, quicker than what it might have taken some mornings on the M4 and the M2. So,
Well, I'm sold.
Great. Sign here.
Hopefully, exactly right. Hopefully the viewers are as well.
Yeah.
Now, look, Rich, we've touched on it earlier. You're a successful author. You've been on the speaking tour. You've owned and operated a number of different businesses. But what do you think is the one kind of key skill or trait that you have drawn on the most during the ups and downs of your professional career?
I think that persistence and just knowing your plan and your path and following it no matter what, basically. So, not to say that you don't, if the signs are on the wall, then you've got to, make the decisions. But I operate under what I refer to as faith, not feedback. So I know that I'm doing the right thing. The free newspaper, it's a tough gig, but we know we're making a difference in the community. So we push past all the, negative comments. And if we had have followed the feedback, after the first week we put a paper out, Kelly and I, I put every word together in the paper. I took every photo, I designed every ad, we put it out, and we thought, we've done this amazing thing. And then we printed it, we picked it up from Sydney, we brought it back, and we handed out 5,000 papers to the Lithgow region. And we're doing home delivery at that point, which we've since stopped doing. So we delivered to all these homes, and we thought, wow, what a great job we've done. And we came in, and our answering machine was maxed out with people complaining. So if I had to listen to the feedback, we wouldn't be here doing issue number 319 this week or whatever it is. We just knew that we were doing the right thing, and so we kept going.
Well, this is issue 15 of the RDA Business Breakfast.
Keep going.
Absolute cracker. So we'll take that, we'll keep the faith and we'll keep persevering ourselves.
Absolutely.
I think you're right, perseverance and just sticking at it. And I know a lot of businesses that I've been speaking with during this period have been doing it tough, but they're plugging away. And I think it's a good reminder for everyone. If you can support a local small business at the moment, now is more important than ever.
100%.
They're doing it tough. You've probably seen it, the flow-on effects in your business through the paper.
Yeah, but we didn't, we saw that day one as soon as there was all these shutdowns. Our business advertisers disappeared overnight. But in true sort of form of, that keep the faith sort of thing, Kelly and I went straight to market and offered free ads to businesses. So that's how we make our money, but we'll give it away for free right now because everyone needs our help, and we're hoping that will then translate into they'll help us when we need it down the track as well. I think the other thing though of, the one thing that's been constant is people. You have to have good people around you. And I don't just mean your team and stuff like that. And it's a good network and a support network. So I'm very lucky to have, work with my wife and have a great working partnership. We've got great people that work with us, but we've developed a really good network of people that support us and buy into our dream and want to see us succeed. And so to have those people supporting you is really important in these tough times. Yeah,
look, I tend to agree. Good staff is the backbone of every good business, and now more than ever they've been drawn on because they've been going through that challenging time. Now, look, Rich, really appreciate your time this morning. I think we've covered off on some really important issues. If there are local businesses, viewers who want to learn more or engage with you about your work with the foundations, about your work with Village Voice and the Bathurst City Life, what's the easiest way for them to do that?
Instagram, I'm Rich Evans. On Twitter, I'm Rich Evans. On Facebook, you'll find me, or any of the businesses, Village Voice or Bathurst City Life, all the foundations. So just jump on the socials, find me, and I'll get back to you via one of those varied platforms.
Now, good on you, Rich. Well, look, there you have it, guys. We'll be sure to put Rich's details up on the Facebook page after this morning's chat. Really appreciate your time. And until next Friday, when we do this again, I'll be sitting down with Jared Amada from the Upstairs Hub in Bathurst. But until then, have a great day, a cracker of a weekend, and we'll catch you next week.
See you later.